When did you triumphantly call someone out for lying? When I worked at a fast food joint, I had someone call in during the opening shift while we were still prepping everything for the day. He tells me he was just there and that the service was terrible and his order was wrong. I asked him when exactly he came in. He said about half an hour ago. I said, oh that's weird, because we don't even open for another 45 minutes. He just hung up without a word. That sounds like Jimmy John's LOL. IDK, who else opens late enough for that kind of crap to happen? Also, why do these people do these things LOL? My supervisor was talking about my private HR meetings to my co-workers at my same level, which they told me right away. Went like this. Me, hey, boss, please don't discuss my HR meetings with my co-workers. I don't care if you tell other managers or my lead, but not my peers. Boss, I didn't talk about that. Me, co-worker, said he heard it from you. So did other co-worker. Boss, oh, he shouldn't have heard that. Me, I agree. He wouldn't take responsibility at all, but it just felt good to let him know my co-workers and I are closer than he thought and that he had to watch this yap from now on. My ex-wife told my kids I didn't pay child support regularly. I was able to lay out each and every receipt for 3 years showing each payment made on time or early, but I wouldn't say triumphant. There are no winners in divorce. My cousin's children found out that he was paying child support and their mortgage 30 years after the fact. When they were adults, their mother talked crap about the father all that time, destroyed the relationship they could have had with their father. I created a binder for a hotel my company owns with forms and templates. I highlighted and wrote explanations on everything. About a month later I go to the property to assist with some things and the GM brings out the binder and says, yeah, I just put this together as a tool for us here. I immediately tell him, no you didn't, I made that and gave it to you. His face went white as he tried to recover, saying, well, I added a few things. He didn't. Loved the faces of my colleagues when I went back to the office and told them all. Only witness not involved. An auto shop angry customer ahead of me was shouting, we've been here more than 2 hours. The shop manager gets out a piece of paper, we printed the work order you signed less than 30 minutes ago. They've done studies on the psychology of queuing that show people overestimate time spent waiting in line by 36%. A dude was trying to blame 2 other guys, who are like the kindest souls out there, of forcing themselves on a girl. So I just asked him, how did you know the details if you weren't there? He stared at me for a minute before saying she, the girl, told me he didn't see her standing in the crowd but I did. So I just asked her, hey, is this true? She said no, and he was the one who tried to force himself on her. Dude 1 and dude 2 were there to save her. Classic projection. He had to draw attention away from himself, but in doing so, only caused more attention to the matter. Once I called out a councilwoman lying on the radio. She lied about something I had worked on. Public servant here, saying it was her idea. I called the radio station giving a fake name and called her out. Hahaha. This guy told this glorious story about how he epically struck out at the bar with this girl. Except it was my story, and not even a good one really, and he was retelling it to me like 2 days later to be cool. Thing is, he was retelling it to me and all the other people in the group I told it to. Everyone is shooting me glances as the guy is going on about it. Obviously they all know too, but no one is stopping him. So I couldn't resist. Right when he gets to the end I cut him off and say, oh, hold on. I remember how this went. It ends when she says her girlfriend wouldn't like that very much. All the blood drained from the guy's face when he suddenly realized he heard the story from me, and the rest of the group laughed. I felt sorta bad after. Sorta. Every few years his mind will randomly remind him of this moment for the rest of his life. I used to work for Comcast. Boo hiss. In their retention center. One call I'll never forget was this college kid trying to cancel his service. The call went something like this. Me. Welcome to Comcast. How may I help you? Him. Yeah, I need to cancel my service on this day. Me. Sorry to hear that. Have you considered not cancelling? This part is heavily abridged. Him. Nope. My semester is over and I'm moving back in with my parents in city that doesn't have Comcast. Me. No problem. I've gotten that set up for you. Is there anything else I can help you with? Him. Yeah. I need you to credit the last 6 months of service. Me. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? Him. Now sounding agitated. Your crappy service didn't work and I shouldn't have to pay for it. Credit it. Now. Me. Still confused. Why didn't you call into our technically support? Him. I didn't have time. I'm a college student. Me. Let me get this straight. Your service didn't work at all. Like, if you turned on the TV all you'll get is static and it's been like that since December? Him. That's what I've been saying. Me. Then how did you rent a movie last night? He then spurted out a bunch of apologies and hung up. That was probably my favorite call in the 4 years I worked there. Rookie mistake. Confirming first that you will not be continuing the account. You need to dangle the carrot of not cancelling. Some guys came into the bookstore I was working at during Black Friday and tried to tell me a guy co-worker gave them the okay for a steep discount. I flat out told them they were lying because I was the only guy working there, and the only one working there since we opened. 2 years prior, every other worker up to the manager was female, and the district manager was a guy, but if he gave discounts, it was an email with an attachment with his signature and he would call us as soon as he issued signed discount certificate. We had a lady call our store and tell us that our manager had put an Xbox on hold for 40% off and was confirming it was there for pickup. I asked for the name of the manager. I don't remember the name, but it was a guy. So I responded, yeah, we don't have a male manager at the store. All the managers are female. Also that manager would more likely than not be fired. They can't mark stuff more than 10% off without it being marked down in the system already. I couldn't triumphantly exclaim that I caught her lying, but I went and laughed about it with my managers. Had a very crazy former roommate who I found in a fit of desperation on Craigslist when I was very poor and had just left an abusive ex. Me and crazy roomie shared a bunk bed in a master bedroom in a home that was owned by our landlords. We had this arrangement where we would alternate who bought the toilet paper. I bought a really big pack of the stuff. Halfway through the big pack, the rest just disappears. She buys a puny little pack of 4 from the dollar store and accuses our landlords, a large Mexican family, of stealing the rest of what I bought. I had a hunch. So one day when she was out, I went rifling through her stuff. I found the rest of the TP I bought hidden in her dirty laundry hamper. After washing my hands about 10 times, I stowed it in the trunk of my car, along with everything else valuable that I owned, and didn't bring it up again. She brought it up for me. She came to me the next day, nervous and stammering that her girlfriend had misplaced the TP. I asked her, oh, where was it, to which she had no response. When it was next my turn to buy TP, I bought 1 roll, just waiting for her but to say something about it. I only stayed there for another month because I'd paid for it, but she got kicked out before I left for hotboxing the room while the landlord's whole family was home. Dorothy, no, that's not a misspell, was a real class act. I have so many awful stories about her considering we only lived together for 2 months. I would like to subscribe to Dorothy Roommate Stories. I was waiting at a red light behind a red BMW. I saw that its bumper was kinda fricked up. The light turns green and he starts going and I slowly accelerate like any normal human. Then he slams on his brakes and I do the same. Don't hit him at all. He reverses into my car, then turns on his hazards and pulls into the shopping complex near us. We exchange information. I am absolute calm. Later at small claims court after rejecting his claim with my insurance. Him. Yes, your honor. This rear ending left me with 5k in damage including paint and 1k in emotional distress as I have needed physical therapy. Judge looks at me and you say you have video of this incident. Me. Yes, I do, sir. Hand CD to bailiff. Dashcam clearly shows his fraud. Judge, so is that you in the video? Him. He literally got arrested and had to pay me 5k in damages. Get a dashcam, people. Lumfeo. UELPT. If you are defrauding someone's insurance, look for a dashcam in their car while waiting for their info. My friend's favorite is from when working at McDick's. She was on drive-thru and a guy came through complaining about ice cream that he got earlier. That's when everyone that worked there came to the drive-thru window to see. Friend casually lets them know they haven't had a working ice cream machine in 4 months. WTF, their ice cream machine never works. I was renting a house with 2 roommates in Michigan. One of them S, and I had talked about keeping the furnace low to try keep costs down. It was also because S's room was in the middle and apparently got ridiculously hot at night, so hot she admitted to cracking the window sometimes. We had talked to the other roommate, A, about it and she was on board, except A constantly turned the heat up, a good 8 degrees hotter than we had agreed on. It would be one thing if she was legitimately cold, Michigan in the winter, after all, but she would crank the heat up and then wear skimpy clothing. It was pretty frustrating that she wasn't even trying to layer up before turning the furnace up. Not only that, but she would come home from school, turn the heat up, and then leave for the weekend not 15 minutes later. One of her go-to excuses for the heat being higher was that the furnace was programmed to turn up at a certain time of day, which it only was because she had programmed it that way. So one weekend when she was back at her parents' house, I reprogrammed it back. Monday rolls around. I get back from class and the furnace is up again. I turn it down and go confront her about it. She predictably said the heat was only up because it's programmed that way, and I called her a liar flat out. She shouted at me a bit and called me a butthole, then went in her room to sulk. She was so bad with any sort of confrontation. She came from money and her parents had spoiled her rotten, that she never spoke another word to me. This was around February. She unofficially moved out like 3 weeks later, but her parents still paid her portion of the rent until September. So I didn't have to put up with her crazy butt anymore, and I've got plenty of stories of her being crazy. Can we hear more stories? I was at a music festival that requires you to wear a white bangle, green for musicians. This random guy was trying to hook up with a girlfriend of mine. He was telling her that he's a musician and that he's playing a gig the next day and that she should come watch. He was using the musician thing to basically get into her pants. I was there with her, listening to the guy, and at the end of his long session of bragging and attempted flirting I just asked him why he was wearing a general bangle, white, instead of a green one. He was confused. I then explained to him how the bangles work. My friend and I had a chuckle while he awkwardly walked away. This reminds me of the guy who was trying to pick up one of my friends. When she went to the washroom, he told me and my other friend that he was a professional poker player and a rapper. Dude was maybe 21 years old, and it was clear that the truth was that he enjoys playing poker and rapping and hopes to someday make money from it so he doesn't have to get a real job. My freshman year of high school, there was a girl who claimed to have her driver's license already even though we were all too young. It was pretty funny to see her face when she showed up in the same driver's ed class that you needed to complete before getting your license that I was in. The next day at lunch she tried to lie about it again, so I told her to show everyone her license to prove it. She tried to make up some bulls, so I told everybody she was lying and I had seen her in my class. She also got caught telling the volleyball team her brother was dead, and when someone said something to her mom, it came out she never even have a brother. She also got caught telling the volleyball team her brother was dead, and when someone said something to her mom, it came out she never even have a brother. She ate him in utero. I had a customer once call and say she had bought these ice cream sandwiches the week before and they were all freezer burned. She was super aggressive and was yelling, so I very politely confirmed the exact product she bought. She yelled, "Yes, that one. That's what I've been telling you," and I said, "Mom, we discontinued those 6 months ago." She stuttered a bit and hung up. I was 19. It was my first job, and it was so satisfying. Called mom out for smoking while pregnant and continuing to do so while nursing. No one believed me. I got whooped, grounded, and ostracized by whole family. 6 years later, parents getting divorce. Mom admits in court she smoked while pregnant and nursing. I felt triumphant because I was vindicated. But really, as triumphant as that moment was, the whole incident really fricked up my relationship with my family and I've suffered because of it. My mother is a terrible person. I don't say that lightly. She has stolen medication from me after I had oral surgery, and on 2 occasions, a decade apart, she stole my identity and my siblings, opened several credit card accounts, maxed them out, tens of thousands of dollars, and never made a payment. She tells people she's a nurse. She barely finished high school, and makes up extravagant and potentially very damaging lies, which she believes she'll never be found out. Yes, she's a terrible person. but my dad isn't. So when my now adult daughter was an adolescent, my mother was allowed to spend time with her. A few years ago, I'd lost my job, was having trouble finding employment, and had to trade in my sports car for a sedan so that I could drive Ridashare to make ends meet. My mother told my daughter and several relatives that my car had been repossessed for non-payment. I took great satisfaction in showing my daughter, relatives, and yes, the shrewish, lying hag herself the dealership papers clearly laying out the terms of the trade-in. The aftermath was both hilarious and sad, as she also has a vile temper. Whoa, that's horrible. Has the rest of your family kind of caught on to her lies, and don't fall for it anymore? Or do they still fall for the lies? An acquaintance of mine tried telling another friend of mine we were dating. I told him to stop his crappy lies and stay away from me. Some time later, 6 months to a year, I bumped into him again and we talked a little bit. He then tried to claim he was dating a colleague of his that I had met. I didn't believe him for a second, so I found her on Facebook and told her. The guy almost lost his job. It was a weird feeling busting him. On one hand I loved the takedown, on the other I just felt sorry for him. You probably helped him in the long run. When Fallout 4 had just released, I convinced my partner to let me go and snap up a copy on launch day, which was being advertised for the discounted price of $69. Australian pricing sucks, but that's another story. Afterwards, while she grabbed a pizza for lunch, I went into the nearby EB Games store to just idly browse. Anyway, this young bloke and his mother come in with a catalog from Target and ask the guy at the counter to price match Fallout 4. As is their policy, the clerk launches into this patronizing spiel about how that only applies when stores in their vicinity have myriad stock, and he knows for a fact that every store in town has no copies left, as it's such a massive game and it being launch day and all. The mother sighs and begrudgingly agrees to pay the full $99.95 that over-exorbitantly priced TB seems to think every game should retail for, which is when I pipe up, excusing myself for interrupting but saying that I overheard their conversation and I know for a fact that the local Target store still has multiple copies in stock. The cashier sneers and tries to argue that they didn't, to which I suggested that the lady give the store a quick call to ascertain whether they did in fact have any stock left, and produced the receipt from my wallet that showed that I'd literally purchased a copy at the discounted price less than 15 minutes earlier. The cashier finally relented, sensing that he was close to losing out on the sale altogether, shooting me daggers as he rang up the price and condescendingly stating to the lady that he'd make the exception this one time for her and her son. Satisfied, I booked out of the store and chowed down on some crappy tasting Domino's pizza as a reward. I hate when unscrupulous dickwhiskers try to take advantage of people, particularly older people, so it felt good to put this cocknuckle in his place. A small victory, to be sure, but a sweet one nonetheless. Fricky B. This story filled me with vindictive glee. I used to volunteer and help out with a paintball team that was made for veterans back in college. I never served, but a lot of the guys were in my fraternity, so I did what I could to help and played with them. Basically, you get a whole team together and let vets with PTSD use their skills in a positive light, while also getting back some of the brotherhood they lost when they left the service. It was a ton of fun, and they would absolutely wreck people. Most of the guys were great, but one mother was just the worst. He always talked about how he had PTSD. He used it as an excuse for everything and claimed he was in the Navy and SWCC. Basically SEAL delivery teams from what I've been told. Basically all of his war stories were straight out of Act of Valor, and he constantly talked himself up, but was a genuinely crappy person. At one point he even stole a TV from one of the other guys. Well, eventually the team had to get a DD-214 from him, and he kept pushing it off. Finally got it from him, and he was a diesel mechanic that was dishonorably discharged for drug use. Kicked him out to the house for drug use, and a few hundred other reasons, and he wasn't welcome on the team anymore. First week of a new school year, headmaster sends a group email scheduling every single meeting teachers were required to attend for the next 6 months. I reply, publicly, saying I'm unavailable for the particular time and the day she chose our meetings to be, which was an hour later than last semester. She replies that every single meeting we've ever had been at the same time. At that particular moment, I was the only teacher who had worked the previous semester, so none of the teachers who were currently employed couldn't have known at what time we had our meetings last semester. I reply publicly with a print screen of each of the emails scheduling our meetings from last semester at correct time. She changes the meetings for the correct time. Keeping your emails is so key to calling out liars. Love it. We were on a conference call. A supervisor took credit for all the work in a cross-departmental project. He wasn't even a part of the project. His subordinate, Craig, was. I called him on it in front of about 40 people. I said that even Craig didn't do any work. The real star of the show was Leslie, the intern assigned to help us, since she did 75% of the work. The supervisor got fired several months later for some other issues. A lot of people on the call reached out to me and said what I did was awesome. Went on a trip with some close friends. One of the girls, Girl A, couldn't find an expensive pair of sunglasses and was really upset as she knew she hadn't lost them outside. She had a feeling one of the girls, Girl B, has taken it who had already denied seeing them. Started packing up the car when Girl A suddenly demands Girl B to open up her luggage to look for the sunglasses. Girl B gets irritated that anyone would think she took them. We all had a feeling she did, and after a few minutes of crying she opens up her bag and wouldn't you know, Girl A's sunglasses are right there. It was delicious seeing everything unfold but ended up being an awkward car ride home. I work as a referee for an airsoft field and there were 3 boys, a pair of twins and their friend, all running HPA airsoft guns. The airsoft guns use gas from a portable high-pressured, green, gas-filled tank. They would adjust their pressure to a low amount to pass the chrono test. We have a set limit of FPS for the field, and they would jump it up to 50 FPS higher than the maximum we allow for HPA. Players told me after round someone is running too hot, over the limit, and I figured it was them. I asked to check their guns and they said you already did it. Why do we have to do it again? And I said because I am the ref. They thought they could be sneaky and went alright. Let me get more gas then. They tried to dial down the gas in a spot I couldn't see and I walked around and saw him lowering his pressure. I kinda yelled, "How dumb do you think I am? I know when you're adjusting your pressure to look under the limit, especially when your tanker is over there, a few feet away." Everyone in the staging area, a safe place to set up your gear, looked over at them and they proceeded to pack up and leave. We were done anyway. It has been a problem with them and is still a problem that they do this, but my boss won't ban them from any of our locations yet. Not banned yet, until someone shoots an eye out. The lawsuit will make the boss rethink his decision. Oh boy, there was a girl I grew up who was notorious for her being a pathological liar. All you need to know for this is that this is when she and a bunch of girls were going through their weeb stage and that meant everything in and from Japan was the best thing ever. So, this girl, white as bread, tried to convince her fellow students that she was from Japan via adoption. As in, she was adopted from Japan and then she said she had 2 birthdays because of it. I had grown up with her and she never celebrated her 2nd birthday up until that year and I knew all about her family. Basically, a friend gave her a gift on her 2nd birthday and I pointed out to my friends as we watched this unfold that she didn't have a 2nd birthday. I then explained what I'd learned and observed. Well, the friend who got her a gift asked her about it and she was pissed. She came marching over to me saying, "How dare you lie to him?" I told her I knew she'd been lying all year and that I grew up with her, so I knew all about her birthday and whatnot. I said, "You know darn well that today isn't your birthday, so stop lying to people just to get attention." She hated me after that, but she did lose most of her friends except for the naive ones who'll believe anything you tell them. My friend pretended he had a girlfriend for years. Not going to lie, it was nice not being the only lonely person. Thanks for gold, kind strangers. I have a co-worker with an I am overqualified and better than everyone at everything complex. He recently tried to point out to me, in a commiserating way, as if I would agree with him, why it's unfair that I make nearly the same as him, but he completed more education than I did. I met the years of experience requirement instead of the degree requirement and have been working in our field for years while he is brand new to it, knowing full well that he doesn't meet the criteria for his own job because the education qualification still includes a minimum of 1 year of experience in the field and he has absolutely none. I pulled up the job posting right in front of him. He immediately backdaled and said that he met the requirements anyway because he worked in a closely related field. Without getting too specific, he's basically saying because he worked at the same place as people who know what they're doing, he knows how to do it too. That is, the equivalent of the IT person at a hospital claiming they can perform surgery because they have installed updates on the surgeon's computer on occasion. I didn't bother after that. There's no point in trying to convince a narcissist they're wrong. On a side note, I saved the day at work yesterday by solving a huge problem we've been having. And because our boss was out of the office, my co-worker felt the need to immediately call him and take credit for solving it. I'll probably end up throat punching him before one of us leaves. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.